Welcome in. It is College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On. We got a big show today. SEC Power Rankings are coming your way. We know Florida State had a rough night in Tallahassee. We'll recap that. Plus, early odds for Week 2 in college football are out. You are watching College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On.
You are Locked On College Football, Smothered and Covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, hey, you know what? Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. We're free. We are available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we are on YouTube as well. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the show brought to you by Ultimate GM. Ultimate College Football Head Coach HC is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Use the promo code Locked On CFB. That's all caps, Locked On CFB inside the game store, and you'll receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. What we are going to do today, what we are going to do every single Tuesday, is we're going to talk about SEC Power Rankings. Now, I put my SEC Power Rankings up on the X machine every single Monday. It's a nice little graphic. You can put it on Instagram. You can look at it there as well. And there was some consternation with some people. And I'm going to address a couple of parts of this and, sort of let you know what my mindset is. First things first, Georgia fans were furious that I had Texas number 1 and Georgia number 2. Here's the reason I have that. And you can think it's good. Rationale, you can think it's bad, but it's mine. So it is what it is. But the reason I have Texas number 1 is they looked phenomenal against Colorado State. We know what Quinn Ewers is. The wide receivers had success all over the place. The offensive line looked fantastic. And the defense, I know it was Colorado State, but the defense looked lights out. Texas looked like a complete football team. And going into the season, if you remember, I have Texas running the table in the regular season, losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game. But nothing I saw from Texas changes what I thought of Texas before the season. And really nothing I saw from Georgia does either. Yeah, maybe you can say the receivers were better, and, they were. But that's kind of the Georgia team we thought that we would see. To me, the disappointment in that game was Clemson. It was not that Georgia impressed me. But here's where I'm going with that. I compare Clemson in 2024 to Michigan. You have a quarterback question. Now, granted, it's a little different because Clemson's quarterback, Cade Klubnik, is more experienced. And yes, Michigan's question might be, a little bit more widespread all over the roster as opposed to just one side of the ball, which is the offense for Clemson. But to me, both of those teams are, hey, let's wait and see. Hey, let's wait and see. All right. Georgia got the job done in their wait and see game against a wait and see opponent. Texas has that this weekend with Michigan in the Big House. So let's see what Texas does. If Texas doesn't come out and have a performance like we saw from Georgia next week, then I'm going to flip-flop them. It's as simple as that. I'm going to flip-flop them. But I went into this season of the assumption that these two teams were head and shoulders above everybody else, and they looked the part. But you don't have to make a sweeping judgment after week 1. Now, I understand That's what we do in this business. That's what fans do. That's what everybody does. We're supposed to overreact. But I'm not going to do that in this situation. I'm going to react after we see both of those teams play some good teams that have questions. And that's exactly what happened to Georgia last week. And it's exactly what I think will happen to Texas this week when they play Michigan. So you don't have to like my reasoning. You might have other reasoning, and that's totally fine. I think what I'm saying makes sense. But as we've talked about multiple times on this show, my show on SiriusXM, anywhere I've written over the last 22 years, I'm not that smart. But I'm going to keep trying, man. I'm going to keep trying. Now, in these SEC power rankings, which again, you can see on X, you can see on Instagram, you can follow me there at Barrett Salee, 2 RCTs, 2 L's, 2 E's, wherever you are on social media. That's my name everywhere. LSU at number 6. I had Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee, and LSU. I dropped LSU down 1. I brought Tennessee up 1. I know LSU has a loss. But, and you've heard this on this show, I thought USC was a fraud. I thought USC had a philosophical problem with Lincoln Riley. I thought USC was going to get smoked by LSU because I had more faith in LSU fixing its problems than USC. Because in my mind, it was more of a Lincoln Riley problem, not a defensive coordinator problem. And I was wrong. D'Anton Lynn had that team focused. They were aggressive. They were fundamentally sound, which was the biggest problem in Los Angeles. So my problem with that game was that I was wrong about USC. In fact, I would say LSU was really good. You go back and look at what Garrett Nussmeier did, dropping dimes all over the place, NFL throws all over the place. He looked fantastic. Kyron Lacey looked fantastic. I don't know where he went in the second half, but he looked awesome. They just couldn't finish drives. That's not good. That's something to work on between game 1 and game 2. But the foundation was there. The foundation for them, for LSU, to be an SEC threat, to push for a college football playoff. If there are 4 or 5 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff, it's still there. My mind hasn't changed that much on LSU. It changed enough to jump Tennessee over them because Tennessee looked awesome. But to me, that wasn't an LSU problem. That wasn't LSU not living up to expectations. That was USC being a damn good football team. And I am fully capable of saying that I was wrong about that. Because I was wrong about that. Is it sustainable? I don't know. But so far, so good. Now, that could be an overreaction. But the fact that it happened, that USC looked fundamentally sound on defense, I mean, that blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind. I did not think that was possible. And so, I mean, good for them. Now, beyond that, I dropped Texas A&M to number 9. I think Notre Dame's good. If you watch the show late night Saturday night, you saw exactly how I view Notre Dame moving forward, and that's a playoff team. I didn't think Texas A&M was going to be that great. I know some people, had them hyped up. I didn't. I was extremely disappointed in Connor Wegman. I was extremely disappointed in the offensive scheme in general. At some point, and you saw Mike Elko during the middle of that game screaming at people, run the damn ball, run the damn ball, run the damn ball. At some point, don't you have to? Like, you look at Connor Wegman and say he can't throw himself out of this funk. And he's got dudes outside. I get it. But we talk about DJ Uiagalelei, and we're going to talk about Florida State here in the second segment. But we sit here and talk about DJ. Was Connor Wegman that much different? Holding on to the ball too long, inconsistent with his throws. The touch passes just weren't there. It was almost the exact same thing. And that surprised me. That really surprised me. So I have Texas dropping back below Oklahoma. Texas A&M, I should say, dropping back below Oklahoma and below Auburn. And I know Auburn played a cupcake. They looked fantastic. And Peyton Thorne looked fantastic. Just the fact that he looked good against air as opposed to last year is a huge, huge sign that he's gotten better, the offensive line's gotten better, and the receivers have gotten way better. And last with my SEC power rankings, I had to move Vandy up from 16. Florida's at 16. Might not stay there. Look, and I'm not going to explain that. It's obvious why Florida's 16. Vandy beat a damn good Virginia Tech team. Diego Pavia is phenomenal. The wide receiving core is unreal. They deserve respect for that. But here's the thing. Now, I know we're talking about SEC power rankings. Everybody knows, I saw Vandy. The worst possible thing that could happen to the ACC is Virginia Tech to get hot and win the conference. That would be a nightmare. That would be an absolute nightmare for the ACC. I still think it could happen. I still think it could happen because they still have a dynamic quarterback. But you can go to Twitter, X, Instagram, see all 16 of my SEC teams ranked, and I guarantee you will like it. If you don't, then you can hit me up. Comments, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Twitter, X, Twitter, Pigeon, Carrier Pigeon, don't care. Coming up, we will talk about that Florida State debacle on Monday night. It's College Football Smothered and Covered, and of course, we are presented by Locked On. The show brought to you by Ultimate Football HC. I want to take a moment and give you some news and some insight on what this game is. It's an amazing game and simulation. You get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of, I don't know, Florida State? Maybe you can fix the problems, although that would be easier said than done. From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And it's all what I really love about it. You're responsible for calling all the plays. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but also shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want to, whenever you want to. I did it on the way back from Dublin a couple weeks ago. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On listeners. Use the promo code Locked On CFB. That's all caps, Locked On CFB inside the game store, and you will receive a free boost to your program. Make sure you take advantage of this perk, and it will get your team off to a strong start. Download the game. Go to ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Oh, Florida State. My goodness, Florida State. I still believe in Mike Norvell. I might be in the minority. I still believe in Mike Norvell. There are two things wrong with this Florida State team. And I know what you're thinking. The first is going to be DJU. We'll get to that in a second. That defensive line is horrendous. Now, we saw it against Georgia Tech in week 0. Boston College did not get creative with their offense in the first half. It was some kind of play, whether it be fullback lead or zone or whatever, up the middle, up the middle, up the middle. They were gaining 4 yards, 5 yards every play. The Boston College offensive line was relocating the line of scrimmage back 3 or 4 yards almost every play. Now, there's not much you can do to fix that. Mike Norvell's not going to suddenly find 6'5", 290-pound defensive ends, defensive tackles somewhere in Tallahassee. They just don't exist. And so what if you're any opponent of Florida State moving forward, don't you just say, all right, stop it until you do, and then we'll do something else. It goes back to something we talked about this on this show before. The defensive line, I think, was a little overrated, but defensive tackle specifically was a problem for Florida State going into the season. You have seen that defensive line get exposed beyond belief. It is an abject disaster, and there's nothing Florida State can do about it. Pound it up the middle. That's all Boston College did. Then get Castellanos on the edge, hit a wheel route here or there, and boom. That game was over in the second quarter. Now, I know Florida State kicked 2 field goals, and on the scoreboard, it kind of looked different. Short field both times. And with DJU, he is who he is at this point. And with that said, that was still one of the worst performances we've seen. You heard Florida State fans chanting, "We want Brock, we want Brock, we want Brock," even in the first half, because they saw what we've seen for the last 3 years. DJ has no ability to put touch on the ball. None. That first half, missed throw after throw after throw. There were a couple touchdowns he left on the field. There was one corner route where, I forget who the receiver is, was wide open. Absolutely wide open in the corner. And DJ threw it like 5 yards in front of him. There were deep passes that were 4 or 5 yards over the heads of receivers. And we saw that in week 0 too. I was very disappointed in a couple other aspects of the offense for Florida State. If you're going to have a quarterback who's as inconsistent as DJ, but is as big as DJ, where is the quarterback run up the middle? DJ can do that. In fact, he did that a lot last year at Oregon State. Where is it? You know he can do it. If you can't pass, try something different. It wouldn't surprise me now with the bye week if they go back to the drawing board and try something like that. Or make the switch to Brock. But one thing, and they kind of did this in the second half more than they did in the first half, is they got him outside a little bit. He seems more comfortable rolling out. That seemed to get him in a groove, sort of. Now, groove for DJ Uiagalelei purposes is much different than other people. But at least try that. More designed runs up the middle and more rollouts. I think if that happens, Florida State can still make a bowl game. But think about this. We're talking about now Florida State potentially not even making a bowl game. I had them in the college football playoff. I didn't have them winning the ACC, but I had them in the college football playoff. Now, still think Clemson's better. Miami's significantly better. We know Georgia Tech is better. Boston College is clearly better going on the road and beating Florida State. Who else will prove that? Kyle McCord looked great at Syracuse. NC State's still talented, although I've never been the biggest Grayson McCall guy, but we'll see what happens this week against Tennessee. More on that in segment number 3. I still think there's hope, but I'm not very confident in that hope because, again, DJ is a problem. He's not the biggest problem. It's the interior part of that defensive front. And it's the linebackers too. They're not even keeping their eyes in the backfield. They might be looking at the scoreboard. I don't know what they're looking at. So, again, no bueno for Florida State. All hope is not lost for them to make a bowl game. But man, that bar has been lowered so far over the course of the last 9 days. We will take a break. We'll talk about a couple of games that the odds kind of surprised me. We'll do it next. This is College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On. All right, 5-hour energy. You're tired. It's a long, long 5-day marathon. You know what you need? You need 5-hour energy. Grab a 5-hour energy shot. Stay alert while you watch all your favorite games. Or if you stayed up late, see that intense overtime game, or stayed up late to watch Boston College continue to wreck shop over Florida State, take a 5-hour energy shot in the morning so you can start your day. Plus, it's sitting here Tuesday. We only got a couple more days until there's the NFL. And then Friday night SMU's play, and then we do this all over again. So you need 5-hour energy. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. And on the site, you can even have the option to build your own 12-pack or your own 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it is delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive a 20% off your first order. Locked on CFB, 20% off your first order. The offer only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com today. Odds. We love odds. We're going to talk about two games. First things first, we mentioned Tennessee last segment. Tennessee's a 7.5-point favorite over NC State. Now, that surprises me because what we saw from NC State against Western Carolina in week 1, very concerning. The offense could not get going, and I've said this consistently on this show. I'm not the biggest Grayson McCall guy. Now they're going up against a Tennessee defense that we can sit here and talk about Nico Iamaleava all day long. Tennessee's defense is legit, folks. Legit. Plus, it's a neutral site game in Charlotte. Yes, that's closer to Raleigh, but not that much closer. And Tennessee fans are going to pack Bank of America Stadium. So 7.5 points, it jumped out to me, and I'd love to know the rationale behind that. Because I think Tennessee is damn good. In fact, we talked about my SEC power rankings earlier in the show. I've got them 5th. I had them jump LSU. I could even make a case that they might be ahead of Alabama. I didn't. Tennessee fans, if you want to try to make that case with me in my mentions, fully on board with it. You'd probably have a pretty strong case. Now, if you blow out NC State by double digits, which I think you will, full disclosure, I think you will, then maybe you do have a case to be one of the big four in the SEC. But 7.5 jumped out to me more than I possibly could imagine. I had a double take on that. I was like, really? Really? It's not 17.5? Maybe people didn't watch NC State in the opener. I don't know. Or maybe the ranking is going to blind the public and you're going to see a lot of pro money come in right before the game. I'd love to know the rationale. If you're an odds maker, hit me up in my mentions on YouTube, in the comment section for this video, whatever. I need to know. Now, Texas minus 6.5 over Michigan. In Michigan, oh my goodness. You get a touchdown win plus an extra point, and you cash Texas tickets against that Michigan team that has a quarterback issue with Warren and Orgy. You don't know what you're going to get. That game against Fresno State was awful. You go back and look at that game. The score doesn't show how close that game was. Needed a pick six late in the fourth quarter to skew the stats a little bit. That game was a one-touchdown game. Fresno State had the ball in that fourth quarter with a chance to take the lead. Now, Fresno State's a good team. But you're going to make Michigan at home in one of the quietest home environments with 100,000 fans you'll ever hear. You're going to put them as 6.5-point favorites against Texas, a Texas team that we talked about that I absolutely love? That seems like easy money. Now, we can't give you betting advice. I think it's against the law. So I'm not going to. But what I will do is tell you that seems very attractive. It seems very, very attractive. And I'm surprised it's only 6.5. That will do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On. Really appreciate you guys making this your first listen. Hey, for your second listen, go check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. He gets you ready for the entire season, NIL previews for every single game. Spencer does a great job over there at Locked On College Football. You can find the link in the description below. If you're looking at me, I'm pointing down below. If you're not, it's still in that description. You should look below because that link is right there. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Q&A tomorrow on this show. If you've got questions, I might have answers. They might not be the ones you like. They might be stupid, but you can still be a part of this show. So Q&A coming tomorrow. Send me a DM. Send me a regular message. I got notifications on all your mentions, whatever. Do that. It'll be fun. Love you guys. Talk to you tomorrow.